G'day guys, Jason here from the Udder Farm. I'm actually on the trial property today. So it's been 4 days since I've introduced one of my newly built cafeteria style mineral feeders into the cell grazing system. So what this video is going to be about is those 4 days. How did it go? Did they take to it? Can cattle or livestock really self-medicate what they require from a specific mineral or cafeteria style with selected specific minerals separated in compartments? Hang around and we'll find out. Before we call it a night, we'll just have a look what condition these minerals are in. So in the morning I can come down. I don't know if they've been licked. They've been dragged across the ground pretty well, so they're pretty flush. So pretty well be able to tell if they've licked them overnight, because as you can see it's pretty flush there. So the ride down has flattened them all out. So it's not going to be hard to tell which one's been licked. Righto guys, we'll have a look. Nada, nothing. Nah, all flat. Assuming the other side's going to be the same, so yeah, nah, haven't even licked it. But that's to be expected guys, that it's new to them, so it's foreign. I had a sniff at it yesterday, but I think it's going to take a bit to lift that flap up, so I'll hook it up like I mentioned yesterday. So let's have a look inside to see how successful phase 2 of the training was. So we'll have a look at the copper sulfate. I wouldn't say they've had a sniff. There's a few dents there. You see some saliva, some wet patches of saliva there, droppings. They've clearly had a go at the seaweed meal. There's a big hole there in the bottom, so that looks promising. And very predictable. They've wiped out all the grain I had in there. There's a massive hole and massive shiny spot, which is the base of the timber. And they've had a sniff of the diatomaceous earth. You can see there's a bit of a hole there. I'm not sure whether they've actually just shoved their nose in it or whether they've actually licked some of that. They definitely haven't touched the ag lime. There's a little bit of saliva there, and one scraping whether they put their nose across or whether they licked it in the yellow sulphur. And the draw card to get them in here on the other side is also, we use straight grain there, and obviously they polished that up to where they could reach. And as for the mineralised salt, there is a couple of bits. Looks like there's a few holes there, whether they've just had a sniff, it's hard to tell. And when it comes to the dolomite, it looks like there's a run of saliva across the top there, but it doesn't look like anything's been taken out. They may have just been into the grain and then come across and just drill into here. At least now I know they can utilise the mineral feeder. Clearly they got into the bottom and ate all that grain out, so the compartment size is good. They've just got to get used to medicating themselves with specific minerals they require. And that may take some time, because I haven't really given minerals to these cattle much at all. I think once or twice since I've had them, it was a complete mineral, and they touched it a few times and had a few licks, but they really haven't had minerals. So I think it's just going to take time. It's just a matter of moving it with them in the cell and putting a bit of grain in there, keep bringing them back to it all the time, regularly, and that way they might start utilising the other compartments. So what I'll do is I'll tow it round to the cell they're in and I'll level it out. That way we can tell if they've been in there and had any of the mineral or not. So I'll just level the minerals off and we'll let them be. We're back up here now at 6 o'clock in the evening. They're due for another move. As you've seen from the video this morning, as soon as I left and took off on the quad, the camera was still rolling and they all swarmed around the mineral feeder. I knew they would because they come back and they ate more of that grain. But if you can also see on the copper sulfate here, there's more saliva and there's a spot there, so I reckon they've had a lick. They haven't tried any of the seaweed meal today. But if you come over here and have a look at the diatomaceous earth, there's definitely about an inch hole there. So whether they've nosed it again. And on the other side, the ag lime didn't get touched, but if you have a look at the yellow sulphur, there's a bit of weed in there. And also, I can see marks there where possibly someone's had a lick. The grain's been had again. The salt, maybe there's a bit of grass in there, but if you have a look here on the dolomite, it definitely is grass there. It looks like someone's had a lick there, so, and they've thrown it up the side there as well when they've licked it. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with that, and they're starting to take a liking. So I might put a bit more grain in there tonight to keep them coming back to it, and we'll check it out in the morning. So this is day 3 of the mineral feeder training. We'll jump in and have a look what they've done overnight. Well, so far so good. All the hard work and effort in building is finally paying off. So as we can see overnight on day 3, that's diatomaceous earth. Definitely had a go at that last night. It's pushed up at the sides, there's holes in the bottom, there's grass. They tried to get some of their grain, but there's obviously none left. They have a sniff of the seaweed. I wouldn't say they've had any bit of saliva. But as we come across to the copper sulphate, a lot of saliva, and there's a big lick hole at the back there, back down to bare timber. So that's exciting. I'll pop around to the other side. They haven't touched any of the dolomite because it's still flat with my hand marks in it. But someone's definitely low in mineral salt. There's a big hole there, so I'll flatten that back over tonight and may even have to top it up. There's no grain there. As for the yellow sulphur, there's a bit of grass in there, but that might have been when they're going for the grain, which is none in there because I can't see any lick marks. And once again, the ag lime, there's no lick marks in that either. So it's the evening of day 3 now. They've been in here all day, so I noticed I've seen them around the mineral feeder just after lunch there. So we'll jump in and have a look what they've done. So we'll start on this side first. Yep, the dolomite hasn't been touched. Someone's taken a good chunk out of the mineralised salt. I didn't give them any more grain. I don't want to make it a habit. And as for the yellow sulphur, that hasn't been touched. The ag lime hasn't been touched. So looking at the other side, that's just a dummy empty one. The diatomaceous earth has definitely been touched. That was grain. I didn't top that up. The seaweed meal hasn't been touched. And looks like the copper sulphate, there might be one little mark at the back there. Bit of saliva. I don't think it's been touched. Right guys, so we'll pack it up and we'll move it across the road into the cell for tonight. So I've leveled everything out. We'll come back in the morning and have another look. So this is day 4, the morning of. They've grazed here overnight, so I'll bring you in and I'll give you a look what they had out of the mineral feeder. That one's a spare. So overnight, they've hit the diatomaceous earth once again. That's a spare one where I was holding the grain. Haven't touched the seaweed. Haven't touched the copper sulphate. Well, on the other side, haven't touched the dolomite. Definitely hit the mineral salt, the mineralised salt, so I'm going to have to top that one up. It's all stuck in the corners there, and that one's a spare for the grain. And I haven't touched the yellow sulphur or the ag lime. So as you can see, they've been pretty consistent in what they've been selecting. It's mainly been those two the whole way through from day 2. So that's probably it. I'll keep you updated on how it goes. I think the biggest test is going to be when this goes down. Like, they haven't physically tried to lift this before, so I'll let you know how that goes. What I may have to do is put grain under there. That way, when it does go down, they've got something for me to smell, and hopefully they'll get in and lift it. So have a good morning, a terrific afternoon, and an awesome evening, guys, wherever you're watching this from, and we'll catch you later.